Good morning, all preparedness and readiness conscious people out there. This is Mike from SADT, and today I'm going to do the part 2 of the series where the lady sent me the questions. So this is actually questions from a non-prepper part 2. Thank you for joining me here today. We're going to get right into it with some good information for all you guys out there. Make sure you pass it along, share the links. Also, give us a thumbs up if you think that you're receiving some good information here that might be helpful to you or someone you know in the future. That's what we do here, is try to provide good, solid information that you can build on. I mean, it's not having an actual instructor, but you can learn some things that will lead you to some great questions when you do meet up with your instructor or your group. As I said earlier in another video, going in blindly without any compass is a good way to get lost in the mix and end up dropping out of something. There's something like when you are dealing with compasses and stuff in the military, there's something called compass rolls, where that's where you go to get your mind right, so to speak, to get your compass set right to the true north, to tell you the right way versus any number of wrong ways. And that is what we're all about giving you that initial set of instructions that's going to put you on the right path to get you where you need to be to protect you and your family. So, our next question was, what do I do if I'm a woman alone? I guess she's concerned with the aspect of possibly being in a emergency situation, a world without rule of law situation, and she being the only person in her group, and that's a bad place to be. I have a group of one, but to only have one person and it being a female alone, while there's marauders running around, guys with guns, rioters, maybe rapists, all of these things that could be going on out there, and she's by herself. Well, this is a terrible situation, and you should never find yourself in that situation. I mean, in our modern society, we've got so used to the normality of always having 911 and having a police officer minutes away when seconds count. It gives you a false sense of security, but at least you have that. In a world without rule of law or a SHTF situation, that response may never get there. And that's the same for ambulance or any type of help. As a woman, you have to be very careful with, cordoning yourself off, not having friends and family and people in a support group that you can depend on. It could be even like doing work on your car. I mean, if you don't know how to fix cars as a female and you have a car and you wake up and the car won't start, not having someone reliable that you can depend on that's not going to try to rip you off or make the problem worse, available to actually do something to help you in that situation, maybe drop you off, jump your car, whatever the case may be. It's always good to have people to lean on. I mean, that's man or woman. I mean, even Marines, we need help. That's why Marines is a force. It's not one Marine, it's us. It's the Semper Fidelis family of people who work together, gung-ho, getting the job done on a daily basis. We don't do anything by ourselves. We do it as a group and a team. And that teamwork is what you need in critical situations where you're going to be called on to do things that's beyond the norm. You need to situate yourself with a group of people that you can trust and depend on. You need to find that group. Women are not the same as men. I mean, in the olden days, before there was law and order and all that, women were considered chattel. And that's not a good thing, but it was everybody ruled by brute force. I mean, the biggest guys took whatever they wanted, the toughest, strongest, most aggressive alpha men took whatever they wanted. So women, being the physically weaker and smaller sex, they were preyed upon by some predators and protected by others. But the bottom line is, in a world without rule of law, you need to make sure that you have people to protect you, to keep you safe from these type of individuals that's going to be out there, as they are right now. If you're not careful right now, if you don't have your instincts kicking in, you could fall victim, fall into a bad situation in a matter of moments after you walk out the door down to the store. I'm not trying to get you scared and worried about leaving the house, but it's just the reality of the world that we live in. So make sure you get with a group of people who can actually help you in times of need and difficulty, and that can be depended on and trusted. Next question, what if I'm feeling that my home is not safe because my area has some unrest brewing, or it seems to be hostile? Well, there's a lot of people in metropolitan areas that deal with that on a daily basis. And my suggestion, if you don't feel safe where you are, you have the means, move. Move now. Don't wait. Move now so you can get to your place, get situated, get indoctrinated into the area, meet people, start that group. You always got to have that support system. I believe most mothers tell their daughters, have your support system. Always have ways of reaching out when there's help needed. Also, if you can't move, then you have to look at ways of hardening your home. You don't want to make your home into an inward prison where you can't get out if you need to. You need to build in safe processes where you can get out quickly, but it makes it very difficult and buys you some time when people are trying to gain entry. That's what you want to do. You want to have stumbling blocks. You know, that phrase that we use all the time, stumbling blocks, actually comes from a military term, as did undermine, to slow down or stop an opposing force from being able to get inside or gain an advantage against you and the people who are trying to fortify themselves. So you want to make sure that you harden your homes. There are many ways of doing that, and many of them are not expensive. They're not expensive processes. So you have to learn how to utilize inexpensive means to harden your home, making sure that it's more difficult for someone to get in than it is for you to make a speedy retreat. And some of those things might be a cut-off broomstick in a window or a sliding door. And I'll have videos showing you how to harden your home at a later date. Sometimes you can do the hole and peg method. This is something that was done in ancient times and can actually be done, and it doesn't have to change the actual aesthetic look of your home. But in the case where that's not a big concern, you can take a dowel rod, half-inch dowel rod, and a half-inch drill bit. Drill a hole in your floor. Make sure it's smooth out and everything. I wouldn't do this if I'm a novice, and this is just to give you some idea. inexpensive ways. You can have a guy do it if you want to do something like that, like to a back door or a porch entrance way. And then you actually, after the door is closed, you have a peg, maybe with a block. It could be made out of metal. It actually fits in that hole on the floor. This is a fail-safe method of stopping entry into your house. You might have a deadbolt, a chain that goes across your door, and this is just an additional treatment that can be placed on your door in more than one way. It could have two holes or a slot, and then this protective pen or device placed inside those access points in the floor, blocking the ability for that door to be opened. It would be a shock. It could be, where the door will partially open, but it can't fully be open. And when you do something like this, if you have a handgun or something, you can actually have your handgun in your hand in a safe position if you're not sure about who might be at your door or opening your door. And you can actually have this set where your door open maybe about 2 inches or something, so you can actually see, because all homes are not equipped with a peephole, and peepholes can be a danger too. I'll tell you about that later. But everyone in security and law enforcement investigation know that you can see enough through that keyhole that you can tell whether someone's home or not if they're moving around and causing differences in light and shadow. So just keep that in mind when you installing that peephole in your house, or when you're moving around in a hotel room or something. Getting back to this though, you put that in about 2-4 inches inside the opening space of the door. That way the door will swing open and stop up against the block that you have in the door. Very inexpensive, very easy to do, but very effective. If you have the burglar chain type thing, the average burglar can break that by pushing on the door and the door is open. Or they can take some bolt cutters and while they're pushing against it and quickly cut that chain. But they would have a hard time breaking up your floor to try to open that door. The only way they're going to get in that house is to break the hinges off the door, break the door frame in, or find another way. And by that time, hopefully you will be devised an escape route or a method of self-defense within your domicile. These are proven methods of protecting yourself in a safe room, a safe location. This can be used in a safe room. I can explain more about it. If you have questions about it, comments, ask me about it, and I'll give you instruction on how to actually install such a device. So harden your home, make your home safe, windows, everything. Create a safe room in your house. That's something that you can look up, or again, I can give you instruction on that in later videos or in a one-on-one conversation. Next question: how do I protect myself if I don't have a gun? Well, your most important weapon of self-defense and even offense is not your gun, is not your baseball bat, it's not your pit bulls or your German Shepherd, it's not your karate skills. I don't think that women should go out and buy a set of nunchucks and try to fight off an intruder. You want to make sure that you're using your brain, your street sense, your intellect to try to figure the situation out first and foremost, so that you don't end up getting in a situation where you have to go to the next level in an assaultive, defensive mode to try to make sure that you stay safe. There's all kinds of things you can use as a weapon. I have some examples here. Here's one. You know, women work out with these, maybe not this big or whatever, but if someone doesn't know you're coming and you take one of these to just one person, and you can be sure of that. You have to be sure how many people are trying to effectuate an attack against you before you start trying to take any action when it's not necessary right then. Make sure you assess the situation before you start taking action against anybody, because it could be somebody right behind that person. I mean, weapons are all around you in your house all the time. The thing is do you have to use that weapon right now? If you don't have to use it, don't use it. Don't put yourself in harm's way because you think you have an advantage. You know, when you have something like this knife, it's not an extendable unless you are working for a Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey circus, and you know how to throw knives or something like that, or you're a ninja. If you're not a ninja, you're not working for Ringling Brothers, you might want to be careful about making sure you choose the right moment to try to use a non-extendable weapon against an aggressor, because that weapon can be turned against you and then you're in trouble. Like I said, all kinds of things. This right here is from a tire repair kit. But things like this, using your ingenuity and thinking about the situation, you might be able to use a weapon like this to protect yourself. Put this under your mattress, under your pillow, and be able to get it. You wait for the right moment, and then you use it. You stop a rape, stop an attack against someone else, maybe your kids. But only use something like this when it's no other alternative. Because just because you injure somebody, that doesn't mean the attack will stop. If you start, continue until the threat is stopped. Violence of action is what you have to remember. Violence of action. If you do not come to the party ready to use the toys you bring to it, your guests are going to use those toys against you and your loved ones. So make sure you come to the party ready to play. Again, there's all kinds of different things. You'll see them in people's cars and houses all day long. Yeah, I can show you example after example of things that can be used as weapons. But unless you're an expert with that weapon, always understand that these weapons can be used against you as well once you bring them out into this situation. Once you bring them out, you're not necessarily going to be able to use it to your advantage to end the threat. Again, many things can be used as weapons, but if you haven't practiced with them, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're all thumbs because you're nervous, because you are frightened because of what's going on, you could have these things turned against you. Something like this. You know, this is a baton. A lot of law enforcement and security people carry these with them. They can be used to harm a person. But the thing about a weapon like this is it also can be used against you. So if you're not an expert with it, if you haven't practiced, if you don't have the element of surprise, be careful about pulling out weapons on offenders. The ultimate thing that you're going to have is an extendable, and that's something like this. This right here will buy you an opportunity for escape, but once you pull something like this on an offender, your job is to stop the threat, So make sure you have a legitimate threat before you even bring this out. For legal reasons. For legal reasons, you have to make sure that there's actually a threat imminent enough where you don't feel you can escape it, or someone else can escape it, and you're in a stand your ground situation where the use of lethal force, and it has to be lethal. You don't shoot, say, well, I want to wing them in the arm or wing them in the leg to stop them, but I don't want to hurt them too bad. No, if you pull your firearm, you should be pulling it to shoot until the threat is stopped. So you want to make sure you have that. You want to make sure you have the ability to make a phone call, an emergency phone call, unless the system is not working. You want to have that available to you. And it works for more than one reason. If it's not an all-in-out situation of war without rule of law, you have to think about the law has a long memory and it's going to come after you. And you're going to need to have record of why you had to take the aggressive act to stop someone that was trying to attack you. And having that record, when you call 911 and you stay on the line when there's an imminent situation happening, the 911 operator, police dispatcher, emergency dispatch, whichever you might be dealing with in your area, is going to stay recording on that situation until the police arrives at the very minimum. So everything that happens after that, as long as you stay on that line, is going to be recorded. So the history of all the sounds and your reactions under attack is going to be recorded. That will be very helpful to you in case things hasn't deteriorated, society hasn't deteriorated as much as you might have thought at the time. Make sure that you are trained with any weapons and any tactics that you intend to deploy if you feel unsafe in your home and you don't have a gun. If you have the ability to get one, get one. If you feel safe by doing so, and get the training that goes along with it. And when I say training, that means safety training with the weapon, legal training, and also skill development with the weapon system that you're going to be using. Having a gun and not knowing how to use it is no help. In fact, it can be your worst nightmare. What to do if you get sick or hurt? Well, the main priority is, this is like military talk, don't get hurt. Hurt the other guy. Don't get hurt. But if you do fall or get sick because of some biological situation or sanitation problem, then what you have to do is you have to have prior training and prior connections, support connections, to help you get better. You need first aid kits, you need first aid training, you need CPR training, you need all the types of training to make you not only better able to take care of yourself, but also better able to help others, because that makes you more valuable to groups. The more training you have, if you come to a group and say, I want to join this group, and you don't have anything to offer them, you may get turned down. But if you have, say, CPR training and first aid training, first responders first aid training, these things will weigh heavily on you being accepted into a group. Something that you can add. They might have a first aid expert, but in survival, there's a saying that two is one and one is none. So they might have the best first aid commando type person, but that person might take ill. They might get taken out, or they might be injured, and they might need a secondary. So trust me, Your training would be helpful to yourself, but it also could be helpful to you in the future. So make sure you get the proper training, develop a survival emergency plan before a situation goes sour. You don't want to wait until things go bad to start thinking about the things that we're talking about today. Have your first aid kit, know how to use it, know how to suture, know how to clean wounds and dress them, know how to handle a sucking chest wound, stop bleeding, treat for shock, all those type of things. They're very important when things start breaking down. What are the most important things I need to do or know to survive when I'm outside? Well, that depends. It depends on where you live. If you live in Hawaii, you have a lot of different things that you need to concentrate on: jungle rot, heat exhaustion, things like that, heat stroke, poisonous vegetation, things like that. You have to worry about the things that happen in the area where you are. If you are in Yuma, Arizona, for example, you're not going to have the same things outside to worry about that you might have in Hawaii, or say in foothills of North Dakota, or in the high desert in California. I mean, all of the things are different depending on where you are. If you're up north, say in Minnesota, then and you're outside in the winter or late fall, I mean, your condition will deteriorate a lot quicker if you don't find shelter than it would if you were in Hawaii or say Alabama or something like that. You have to have the training to deal with the cold, how to keep your feet dry, how to make sure you don't get frostbitten, how to find and develop a shelter. All of those things are very important, and you have to do it quick. But something that eludes a lot of people, and that is, here's a question for you. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it and answer to yourself or to your friend that might be watching with you. Can you develop hypothermia if it's 78 degrees? What do you think? Well, yes, you can, because the body loves to be at about 98.6, and 78 degrees is 20 points lower than that. So what's going to happen is, as long as the sun's shining and getting radiant heat from the sunlight, you might be able to handle it. But at night or in cloudy conditions, if you're out in the elements and maybe windy conditions, your body heat is going to be wrest away from your body, and over time your body will start to cool down without you even knowing it. Your body will start to slow down, and as your energy starts being depleted and you stop being able to burn more energy, and this is without you being able to distinguish that you're actually burning more energy. It's the autonomic system that's in play here, and your body is burning this energy, and once it runs out of all that stored energy, then you start to have mental fog, weakness, delirium, and you can actually become hypothermic in a situation, fall asleep, and have some problems because of it. So make sure that you are properly situated as far as your gear and everything, depending on where you are, and have the proper training for that environment to understand that things like that happen. I can tell you this, that maybe two and a half years ago, there was a situation in the Chicagoland area where there was a big storm and there was a power outage that, and it was probably 95 degrees outside. You guys might remember this from the area. It was area wide, so it happened all over. People's power was out. There was no gas being pumped or anything because it was a widespread power outage. At the time, you didn't even know how long the power was going to be out. All you knew is you were sweating and everything like that. Large swaths of the city had power outages. Elderly people got sick, died because of it. So heat is not always a good thing. When there's upheaval problems, that heat could be the worst thing that ever happened to you. People had to get hotel rooms in a different area to try to survive the heat because it was too hot where they lived. They had to go to cooling shelters and things like that. So make sure you're training, make sure you get the proper equipment, know the environment that you live in, and know how to deal with the effects of being out in the environment for long periods of time without help. And finally, how can I identify and avoid threats and danger? Well, that gets back to that thing that I was talking about in a previous video, and that is having survival instincts. All animals are born with those. I mean, it's part of why babies have reflex actions, that when they think they're being dropped or they're falling, they kind of go like this to catch themselves, kind of almost like a cat. And that's because it's a built-in instinct. You have those little survival instincts that's built into our DNA to help you survive. But as we have gotten more, for lack of a better word, domesticated and softened up by all of this concrete jungle that we build around ourselves, we lose those instincts and that ability to think outside the norm and protect ourselves in situations where we might need that help. In the areas of the city where gang violence and everything, they call it street sense, understanding the ways of the gangster, the ways of the night, the ways of the city, the ways of the street. A lot of people living in the hood, they develop those by being in the hood. But I say that I don't care where you live. If you have to matriculate through the hood, then you should have this street sense built into your DNA, and you should also help your kids develop it, because you never know when your car might break down, you might get a blowout, and you have to actually walk through bad areas, and you need that street sense. You could be catching a train. The train could stop. You could have to get off the train. You could be going through an area. You have to know how to identify threats, how to carry yourself like I'm not the victim, someone else is. If you come and you attack me, you're going to lose something in the process. That's the easiest way to avoid predation, is to make the predator feel that they have more to lose by tackling you than they do waiting for the next victim. Don't become a Vic. Make sure that you're not an easy mark. Make sure that you have an effective means of understanding when threats around you and have a plan to deal with it when it is. You want to avoid danger at all costs, but when danger confronts you and there's no escape, then you have to use the means that you practice and you develop your instincts to survive that situation, whatever that might entail, whether it involves acquiescence to a point or it means direct physical confrontation with the threat. Just as long as you survive it, you did a good job. So that was all the questions that she brought up. Maybe you have a question. Maybe you have a concern. Maybe you disagree with some of the points that I laid out in this video. If you do, again, put a comment below. You know, a lot of people keep their questions hidden, and then one day when you're confronted, you don't have the answer that you might need to solve that problem. Well, I say ask your questions up front, ask them now, ask them to a person who can help you with them, and get the help you need before it becomes an issue for you. That's all I have for you today. And what I need you to do is think about the things we talked about. Support all of us that's out here trying to give you good, detailed information about ways to stay safe, be prepared, and survive any type of circumstance that you and your family might find themselves in. And at the end of the day, it's not what you think, it's what you can prove, what you actually know. So I want you to go out there today and be strong and stay safe.